This is the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast, and we're here to build autonomous athletes and put phenomenal programming into every garage, basement, and spare bedroom out there. I'm Jerred Moon, and I'm with Joe Courtney. We are strength and conditioning coaches who have turned over 20,000 people into garage gym athletes over the last decade. And we're here to reduce the information overload that exists in the health and fitness industry today. We're going to do that by covering relevant science and give actionable takeaways, not only from the data, but from our years of experience. So let's dive in. All right, I am back from the 50K Ultramarathon Death by 5K in Memphis, Tennessee. Today I'll be talking about lessons learned and answering any questions Joe might have.
Yeah, I definitely had a few when I was listening to everything that you sent me, and excited to hear more behind the scenes about it now that you've had some time to little reflect on it and even recover.
Yeah, hopefully people enjoyed that podcast. That was not something people normally do. That's why I wanted to do it. So last week's podcast at the time of this publishing, so that was like live. That was we would finish a 5K and then pull up some little like travel mics and then record a quick recap. And I don't know how helpful it was or how much you could really take away, but what I wanted was more of like a journal style, like in the moment, especially if things got tougher mentally or anything. If we were noticing anything, I wanted to kind of document those things. But to be honest, those things didn't really come up that much. So it was more like, hey, here's what's going on. We're doing good. Like, here's how we're feeling. But yeah, I've never heard of podcast style like that. So I want to try something new. So hopefully people got something out of it.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys need a bigger challenge or something.
Yeah, I do think we could have gone further. We could have gone longer. I think Mark and I both probably could have continued to do 5Ks for another 24 hours, in all honesty. But not to take anything away from the race. But yeah, I had some time to sit and think about what some of my lessons learned were from running this style of race specifically, because it is a different kind of ultra marathon, right? There's a lot of rest and recovery time in there, and so I wanted to kind of document those things now that I have had that time to reflect. And then, like I said, answer any questions that you might have. But I'll start with one of my big lessons learned, and that was pacing. Um, I came into this race very like it was an ultra marathon, like it was a marathon. I would be running 31 miles straight, and that's kind of the mindset I came in with it. And so that's also kind of how I paced, to be honest. And so I paced more like, hey, this is going to be long. Don't don't burn yourself out. Because those were my fears. Like if I were to be running a 50K just straight, like a normal ultra marathon, then I would have to be very mindful of that. You can't just or I wouldn't be able to just be in zone 4 that whole time, for 31 miles and not burn out or bonk or something. I'd probably finish, but I just wouldn't do well. So I paced incorrectly. I paced for what would have been a marathon, and that was towards the beginning. But I paced incorrectly going out the gate, and I honestly think I could have ran faster. And I hate finishing the race thinking that. But overall, results wise, I came in. It says I came in 12th place, but I technically came in 11th place because the person above me, if you click on their profile, they looks like they tapped out at the 6th interval and didn't finish, but for some reason they still have a placement above me. So I came in 11th place. I came in 5th place in my age division, and I'm just blown away that that's even a thing. And Mark Bishop, who was one of the Garage Gym athletes, who's the one who got me to do this race, he came in 5th place overall. But after looking at the times and everything and really reflecting, I honestly think I could have taken 6th place right behind Mark. And because I was looking at everybody's times, and it's not just because, oh, Mark got 5th, I could get 6th. If you actually look at the times, it was these 5 guys. It was Mark and 4 other guys who were they were kind of on a different level. And you can just see the time breakdowns. It's like 6th place finished in 4 hours and 46 minutes. and then dropping down to Mark's time was 4 hours and 22 minutes. So like a huge drop from
Yeah.
6th to 5th. But then if you look at 6th and 7th, it's 446, 446, 448, 449, 450, and then me at 457. And I'm like, I couldn't have beat Mark. Like I know that for certain. Like Mark is a better runner than I am, and I've kind of always known that since like we've been going back and forth on training. And he was running much faster, and then all those guys above him, like they were much faster than me. But I feel like I could have beat everyone else between me and Mark for a couple of reasons. One, the first lap I ran, I took a wrong turn, and so I ended up running an extra, not a quarter mile, but up to a quarter mile. So it was like an extra 0.18 miles. Well, I guess, and then I had to backtrack to that. So anyway, I
Yeah.
ran further and then I had to backtrack and then finish. And I still finished that one with a decent time, but it should have been, I don't know, 2 minutes faster, 3 minutes faster, one and a half. I don't know. I don't know what the actual time would be. So there's that. And then the third one, I was a little scared that my first two were a little too fast. And so I sandbagged the third one. It's the only one I sandbagged. And that one I could have ran 4 or 5 minutes faster than I did the on my third interval. So I think I could have gotten a higher placement just from like actual like math. Like I said, there's no way I could have touched Mark or any of those other guys, but between 11th place and 6th place, I think I could have taken 6th place. So anyway, my pacing was all wrong. I should have ran that like an interval race where, because there was so much recovery time, I should have treated it like intervals. I should have gone hard, a little bit harder every single one, and then just use that time afterwards to recover, because that's what I realized was like, oh, this is an interval race. And I didn't realize that until much, much too late in the race to make any significant time up. So if you do anything like this, like these last man standing or whatever, these kind of formats, know that if you do one of these, is that the pacing is very important. You have to run fast. I mean, if you want to be competitive, and that's another thing I'll talk about in another lesson learned. But ultimately, I paced incorrectly, and I'm slightly frustrated, but also happy. I mean, I go into endurance races like these typically, and I'm like, I don't look at the results because I'm like, I'm not an endurance athlete. Like, I'm gonna get
Mhm.
last place or bottom third. Like, I don't really care. I'm just here to finish, and that's also kind of like how I came into this race.
Yeah, just thinking of like a lot of those longer, like grindy workouts, like you never want to pace it too fast going out, and then even halfway through, you might eat somebody when you assess how you pace, and like that. I think that's more of the mindset of what we're used to doing. Just like I'm going to do a workout and it's going to be nonstop workout, not I'm going to do a bunch of different workouts with a whole bunch of breaks in between. So I think we're just so used to you start a pace and then you might make small incremental increases, but you don't want to bite off too much because hitting a wall or hitting that point where you're just like, holy crap, I push it too much. I I'm really slogging and I'm suffering now, and I'm kind of yeah, I'm just suffering. So I'm also wondering, and you haven't really quite gotten into it yet, but you didn't know what the train was going to be like, and the train was more steep, has steeper parts, and it was more trail with some roots. So I'm wondering if you were even cautionary because it's like, okay, maybe the terrain and the elevation might eat away at me, maybe because of the roots or the footing. I don't want to, you know, bite off too much so that later on the road it might come back to you. I don't know if that was also just like subconsciously could have been affecting you, or maybe you just thought the second half you could push it.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely a factor. Like 100% of my runs were on the road training for this. Like I did have some elevation that I was able to use just in like my like kind of neighborhood. There is elevation loss and gain. So I was able to use some of that. Like I'd run intervals uphill. So it's not like I had zero uphill training, but yeah, it was more of a trail run than I thought it was going to be. And when I say that, I'm talking like, yeah, there were some steep, sharp inclines, lots of roots, lots of branches, lots of twists, lots of turns. Um, and so I definitely went into that like, okay, this is because I talked to a guy who had ran like a 5K competitively in this park, and he was like, I was like, is it going to be a trail run or is it going to be like what's it going to be like? And he told me it was more of like single track, like something different than what I got. Like it was going to be not very traily. but it was very much a trail run. So that I think that did factor in probably for the first couple, trying to learn my pacing and basically my first trail run in the last several years on, for the race.
Yeah, that makes
Uh,
sense.
the second thing I want to get into is just my mindset, and this is probably my biggest takeaway. So the first one's pacing. Know what race you're attacking and pace correctly is big takeaway there. The mindset stuff, I had a lot of things that I learned. And I kind of hit on some of this. Like the first thing mindset wise is I went in to survive when I could actually thrive in this race. And so that was the incorrect, improper mindset from and that changed at some point, but that's where I went in. It was like to me, this wasn't my ball game. This wasn't my world. Like everyone else there is an endurance athlete. I'm just pretend endurance athlete for the last year and I don't plan to continue after this race is over. Like it's just not my world. So I kind of went in with a wrong mindset that hey, you're just here to finish this thing, survive. Cause that's typically how I do everything with these longer, like a Spartan Beast or like the 100-mile bike race. I was just like, I just want to finish this damn thing and learn something about myself in the process. So I went in with the wrong mindset. That was a big thing. So if I did it again, that's definitely, I'd go in like, okay, no, I'm here to compete. Um, and that's that was the part of the issue is like I didn't get a competitive mindset until probably number 7, and that's when I realized. So I had 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I had 4 runs where I was actually like, I can be competitive here. But think about how late I realized that, right? Like
Hmm.
on the 7th one, I was like, oh crap, like I can actually do this. So I had no competitive mindset whatsoever going in, and then I finally got one around the 7th, and that's because this is my biggest lesson learned was like when everyone else was showing weakness, and which was when the sun went down, like that's when I got incredibly motivated because I was like, oh, like you're all like day runners. It's not like I practice like running at night or anything, but it was insanity what the difference between the day and the night. People talk about night and day difference. Like this was it, right? Like this was it because during the day, I mean, just running in the middle of the day, like I had girls passing me. I had like just like I just wasn't running. I was like, man, these people are legit. But then the second the sun went down, it was just a different race. Mark and I would start at the front and then we'd finish at the front. Mark would obviously always finish faster than me, but he would finish with those like top 5 guys. And then that's when I would come in like somewhere between 6th, 7th, or 8th place, like behind those top 5 every single night run. And I just got strong and that like motivated me when I was like, "Oh, you're all like tired. Like you're just tired and you don't want to run hard anymore." Like that was the whole group of competitors,
Hmm.
everyone at the race. And I was like, "I'm not." Like I mean, not to say I wasn't tired, but I'm like, this isn't when I start to slow down. This is when I start to speed up, is when things are getting hard for everyone else. And so that was awesome. Just to have like to feel that mindset, to actually be a part of it, because you can feel like you're mentally tough or whatever, like when you're sitting on the couch or laying in bed, but then it's like when the rubber meets the road, what do you actually have? And it was just really cool to be like kind of put myself to the test in that and realize like, yeah, no, you have the right mindset for getting these things done. In all honesty, I think if I pursued this further, I think I might make a decent ultra athlete just because of my mindset. I think once all the other things are stripped away and it's just like it's grit and a little bit of fitness, I think I would survive better than it being all fitness, because there are a lot of people who are just straight better runners than me, better everything. But I think when it gets down to just like who can suffer more, I think that I'm comfortable doing that, to be honest.
So when you go for your next either ultra or endurance race, just do sprints to get to get ready for it, to prepare
Right.
your muscles, and then push through with grit. Your muscles will survive, and you just figure it out from a
I mean, I think that
standpoint.
it's like 50-50 there, but I do think, I've thought about like, okay, doing a second ultra or something like that. What are my thoughts? I think I would only do an ultra in this format if I did another one. Like, and it doesn't have to be death by 5K with every 2.5 hours or something like that. But these death by or last man standing ultras that have really started to pop up and gain popularity, I think those are the only ones I'm interested in. Like I have absolutely zero interest in running a marathon for time
Hmm.
or running an ultra marathon on the street. Like just zero interest. I'll never do that. But I think these new formats are really like they're a lot more fun. And I think that if I ever did one again, it would only ever be in this kind of format. And there are all sorts of them if people aren't familiar. Like there's one where there are several where you can like you run 1 mile every 20 minutes, and then it's just like whoever lasts the longest. There's that one. There are these 5K ones. I've heard of the 2 mile one. My friend's friend just did. It was like 2 miles every 30 minutes or something like that. I've just heard of all these different things, and I'm like, yeah, I think these are more interesting to me than just running in a straight line for a really long time. So that there's a lot of it's more suited for the type of person I am.
I was gonna say I think it's more suited and practical for the type of training we do as well.
Yeah,
I think it'd be easier for us to not completely derail our normal training. And be like, oh well, I can't, lift or do this workout today because I have to go run for 2 hours. It's just, hey, okay, I can still do my running and my sprints and my lifting, but maybe I'll just throw in an extra longer zone two run or some extra intervals.
yeah, yeah, and that's the hardest thing with ultra stuff in general is it can start to affect your training. And if I were to just like try and run a 100-mile race or run a 50K for time, not like interval based, yeah, I don't. My body would not respond well to that, and I don't think I would mentally respond well to the type of training that's required.
Yeah,
Um,
I wanted to do a Ragnar for a long time, and some of those races, like that format race, I would totally be down to do it. I think it'd be fun with a group as well. So that's
isn't
definitely
it?
something I would be open to.
How do those go again? It's like it's a relay. So like you would go, you have to run the course. It's a couple miles, and then like it comes to me, and then I have to run the course, and it's a couple miles. Isn't that how it
Yeah,
works?
so there's from what I remember, you can do it for I think you can do it for two different teams. I think there's the regular group, which I think you can do with a group of 8, or and then there's the ultra group where you can do it with a group of 4. And every person, there's 3 different lengths and 3 different loops. And I think with the group of 8, you each do the loop once. So there's like a short, medium, and long loops, and each of them are different. They're different lengths and they're different terrain. And you just mix and match of who goes when, and then if you do one loop, then you've already done that one loop. You don't have to do that loop again. And then the difference with so you have either an 8 person group, or I think with the ultra group, the 4-person team, you just do that twice. So you do every loop twice, and so you always have a team member running, and then you're just resting, and then the next person goes whenever that person comes back, and then it's completely going the entire time. So there's basically 3 different loops
Do you
depending
know
on how
the
you want to do it.
distance?
I don't. I think it goes between I think they're like between 3 to 6 miles
Okay, yeah,
each loop.
that is doable.
So like
Yeah,
3, 4.5, 6, or 3, 5, 7, something like that.
let's get Mark involved. I definitely want him on
Yeah,
my team if we do something like that. But that would be fun. That'd be something I would do for sure. That's kind of race. It sounds fun. Uh,
yeah. I'll have to keep. I think I almost every year I'll go and look at them just to see what the locations are, see what would be where it would be cool to go, and what would be the most logistically possible for to put a team together. I think if we did that, it'd be a lot of fun to get because you can go, you can hire, and you can ask them for like a tent campsite, like with a completely closed tent and like the little off sections where you can nap or whatever. But just to have your own crew and your whole campsite would also be a lot of fun.
yeah, that would be fun. Next on my lessons learned. So lesson learned was pace. First one was pacing. Second one was just kind of mindset going in there to like be competitive and not just survive. The third one is nutrition. So I actually, this is kind of my fault. Kind of funny story. We're trying to sell our house right now. And when I needed to get some basically some yard work done before I left, the 2 days before I left for the race, because I drove from Dallas to Memphis where this race was at. And one of the things on my list was to kind of fix this like drainage area. because we had a bunch of construction done in our house, like if you've been following along. And so what happened was they had ripped up a bunch of grass, and when you don't have any grass, like water can like shed a lot of mud. So not to get into all that crap, basically I had to put a bunch of rock down. That was it. That's the big project. And they weigh it. I had to do two different truckloads. So and it was 10,000 pounds of rocks. So I unloaded 10,000 pounds of rock from my truck, one shovel load, one wheelbarrow load at a time by myself over the course of 2 days to this like drainage area. And that was probably not a good idea. And because I was doing that and I was busy and I was also trying to pack for this ultra, I think it just drained me a little bit. Like I didn't eat enough those days because it was like sometimes I get busy and I'm behind on calories. And it happened, I think, 2 days in a row. And then I drive 7 hours from Dallas to Memphis the day before the race. And again, I don't really eat that much that day. I was sure to hydrate enough, so I wasn't dehydrated, but I think my glycogen stores were super low. And so after my second 5K, I felt really bad. I mean, I did not feel good. And I was trying I knew it was food related. I could just tell. I was like blood sugar's like gotten too low, like I'm just not feeling good. And I was a little bit scared for the rest of the race, but I knew if I ate, but what I was trying to eat was like peanut butter and jelly sandwich and like a gel, like a carbohydrate gel and stuff. And it would, to be honest, it was just too clean. It wasn't calorie dense enough for like the activity that I was putting out and how far behind I was on calories. And so after our third one, I think um, they served up chicken quesadillas and the race did. So they fed us 4 different times. I honestly could have brought no food and I would have been fine. But I ate a lot of chicken quesadillas. I ate like, I don't know, 6 or 7 chicken quesadillas, and that like fixed me up. So the big takeaway here is just eat a lot. I was, and part of the reason why I was not at first going to eat like that was just because I didn't want the whole like stomach discomfort. Like I've talked about this on other podcasts, but the number one reason people DNF and ultra is GI distress. That's the number one reason. And that would have pissed me off so hard if I was like, I can't run this next 5K because I have to poop. You know what I'm saying? Like or like it's just coming out. Like whatever the reason, I would have been so pissed, or my stomach hurts too bad to run. Like I would have had to walk. Like I would have just been so angry to have trained as much as I did, and then it just comes down to a stomach issue. So anyway, I had zero stomach issues, and I ate everything that they served. They had pizza, they had chicken quesadillas, they had chocolate pancakes with bacon, like all these different things. I just ate everything that they had. I only ended up eating like 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches of my own, and then I'd have like a gel or a protein bar that I brought every once in a while. So again, this has to do with this type of race. That was another thing that I realized. It's like I was so unprepared for this style of race, and I was way more prepared for like just running an ultra continuously. Because if I was running an ultra continuously, I'm not eating 7 chicken quesadillas, at mile 9 in a marathon, like while I'm running. This is not going to happen. But when you have 2 hours to sit and digest it, and you eat it this second you like finish running, that's way different. So again, my strategy was way more 50K continuous and not 50K interval. So anyway, if you do run these type of races, eat a lot more. You can eat a lot more than you think that you can, and you can digest these things like with enough time to be perfectly fine. So that was a big lesson learned for me, was just on the nutrition side.
Yeah,
And then
it's hard to practice that unless you're going to actually do a trial run,
yeah, and
which
like Mark did a trial run. He ran 4 5Ks back in October just to kind of test this. And a lot of people asked me if I did that or if I was going to do it, and I just never did it. And I should have, like, I should have, just to see, because I think if I would have done that, I would have realized some of these things. I would have realized that I could have gone a little bit faster if I'd done like 4 or 5 as a practice, or I realized, oh, you can eat a lot more, or you need to eat a lot more. So I definitely should have practiced those things, but I kind of wanted to just experience the race. Then another thing was just hydration in the nutrition section here is like, I had to make sure that I was on top of my hydration. So I was consuming about a liter every 2.5 hours with like electrolytes. Um, Sometimes maybe a little bit more, sometimes maybe a little bit less, but that was about the sweet spot I found. And then I would make sure that I would I would pee every single time in that 2.5 hour block. So in that 2.5 hour block, you have to run a 5K and then fuel and like drink and all those kind of things. But I found out about a liter in that hour, or 2.5 hours was about what I needed. And I would stay hydrated. I didn't feel dehydrated at all. And like I said, I was peeing every single interval. I'd pee at least one time. And the pee wasn't like dark or scary or anything like that. So I was really good. I was happy with my electrolytes. And other than like, I didn't really even bonk. I just started to feel bad after that. I said it was a second one. So I got ahead. The calories thing ended up not being a problem because it didn't really affect my times or performance or anything. But because I made a quick adjustment and it worked out. So that's what I learned on the nutrition side.
Cool.
All right, and then the last one I have is just training helps. I've done every single endurance race ever, pretty much untrained, except for one of the 100-mile bike rides I've done in the past. I did like kind of train, but still nowhere close to the amount of running I put into prep for this. So training helps a lot, and I have 3 different ways that it helps. One, the recovery between the intervals. So Mark and I were fully recovered, like ready to go for the next intervals. And that only showed, like I said, as the race went further into the night. Like, I think ultra marathon, like endurance aside, I think our fitness level, Mark and I, our fitness levels are very high. And when you have a high fitness level, you're like, that's one of the perks you get is your ability to recover. And so I think that as people were getting worn down, our bodies were not really getting that worn down. We were more like, no, we're recovered. We're ready for more exercise. Like our bodies can handle this. And that comes from training, not just running, not just that training, but just having trained consistently for as long as we have. So that was a big one.
And
And
and like, how many days have we trained where we're not feeling optimal or sore
yeah,
or tired or something like that?
yeah, that's what I mean. I was just blown away with how many people like weren't doing okay in the nighttime. Like I honestly could want to talk to some of these people and just be like, what's going on? Like, are you hurt? Like, does your body hurt? Are you just tired? Like,
Knife in the wound.
yeah, well, I just wanted
Why
like
aren't you more fit? What
it
is your
wasn't like
deal?
not like what, but like that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know. I'm like, is it fitness? Like, are you torn up right now, or are you just tired? And like, because it was either psychologically they were unprepared or physiologically they were unprepared, and that's basically the question I wanted to answer because during the daytime, like I said, when everyone was running fast, I was maybe finishing top third, maybe top half. I don't really know. It was probably top third because there were a lot of people who were just like walking and stuff. Um, and so, but once the nighttime came around, like I said, I was finishing really high. So I was just like, I want to know what happened to all of you people. Like, is it mindset or is it fitness? So anyway, also the second thing I learned from how training helps is the recovery post race was minimal. Like, we finished Monday, uh, or we finished Sunday, and then I felt 85-90% by Monday. So that was like, hadn't slept for 24 hours, got a short nap on Sunday, slept Sunday night, woke up Monday morning, and then I was like, well, I could probably train today, but I'll take one extra day off. And then by Tuesday, I was 100%. So no injuries, body felt great, wasn't very sore. And that's one of the things I was most surprised about because that's not generally what happens when I do some endurance event I haven't really trained for. Um, and then the third thing was strength training is like a superpower. And we kind of mentioned that, I think, in our race recap because Mark and I were realizing it. Um, there was this one portion, there were a lot of like steep inclines, like where you're talking like it'd be equivalent to going up like 10 stairs, like
Mhm.
at a building, like just some quick ones. I would pass people on those because they would like either walk or like they wouldn't be able to shoot up them. Mark and I would be able to shoot up those. And then on the second mile, it was like a steep, long incline. So it was probably, I don't know, this thing probably lasted somewhere between a quarter mile to a half mile. If you included all of it, it was for sure a half mile. And it was just basically uphill that whole time. That's where you gained a lot of the elevation. And that's where I would just start passing people. Like, people would start walking on it or they would greatly slow down. and I would just be like, I'm just keeping my pace. Like I'm going to keep my same pace that I was running before this incline happened, all the way up this incline, and I would just pass so many people on these inclines, and that has nothing to do with my run training. That has everything to do with just strength training and being strong. And so, like, you know, going into these from my background, probably stronger than most anyone in the race, and I think it really showed on these inclines. So I think those three things is like putting in the training, like the actual training for running, I think helped with all of my recovery post race and even during the race. And then also just having a lot of strength training in there made going uphill and all those kind of things a lot easier than other people could handle.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting when you guys said that, and that like how much better you guys were at the hills, and I remember I talked to Mark afterwards, and he said I guess he got to know some of the top guys. That two of the three of the top guys were pretty strong guys too. Like even like those
Yeah.
like the top five guys were pretty strong.
Yeah, they weren't like true, like they weren't like strength athletes, I wouldn't say. Not like, that level of strong, but you could tell just from their body types and what they look like. They included strength training into their runs. You know what I'm saying? Like they were not, because I feel like there are the runners who run, and that's all they do is run. And then there are the runners who do strength training, who, they embrace it. And all those top five, including Mark, obviously, they include strength training with their running. But I still, you could tell also by their body types, they are predominantly runners. Like they are a runner. I mean, I'm talking like I probably had 40 pounds on every single guy in the top five, um, at least. And so, and then there were, then there's like concurrent training where you're true like blend of like 50-50 strength and endurance. And so, yeah, strength training was really important. And it showed for anybody who was doing a little bit better in the race.
Yeah, that's definitely great. And I mean, like you don't go to those things to win it, but like how you guys did was still really great with this sort of with the concurrent chain that we do for an ultra.
Yeah. I mean, I was super surprised. And that's what, like I said, I didn't really catch on until number 7 that I was like, I was coming in so much higher place than everybody. I was like, "Oh, wow." And then I got so motivated. I just started running faster I started running like negative splits from then to the end of the race. And I was like, man, I could have. And that's what I realized when I did my 10th one. My 10th one was my fastest one. That's when I realized, one, I could have kept going. Like if they were like, hey, we're doing another 5K in 2 hours, I would have been like, that's fine. Two, I could have probably held a much faster pace that whole time. That's why I think I could have come in 6th place, right behind Mark. Like I said, I couldn't have touched Mark's time. There's too much of a gap, but I could have passed all those other people. I could have ran much faster. And I kind of realized that probably like, yeah, number 9 and number 10. Like I could have gone faster. But in all honesty, I don't regret it. Like I didn't go in there to be competitive. I wanted to just learn a little bit more about ultra and my body. And I accomplished all my things that I wanted. I got sub 5 hours, which is kind of a goal I set in the middle of the race. I was like, I think I can actually do this. And now looking back on it, um, that's about it. I probably would have just gone in more competitive. But at the same time, like I know that there are probably races where the the pool of people are just way more competitive, right? Like I probably couldn't have touched them. Um, but yeah, that's basically it. I will I do another ultra? It's not in the cards right now. I never say never. Like I think I got pretty motivated from doing this one because like I said during the nighttime portions, I was like, "Oh, I'd love to do more like stuff in the night and see if this holds against other ultra athletes or people trying to do ultras." So it definitely, I would say I got a little bit more of the bug than I had pre. Like if you heard all my podcasts before this, I'm like, hate running, don't want to run, never want to do this again, was kind of my mindset. And that still kind of is my mindset. But I leave the door open to like, I could do it again, but it's not like I'm going to turn around here and just keep training and like get another race on the calendar. I'm done. I'm done for the next 12 weeks. I probably won't run more than 2 to 3 miles at any given time. I definitely want to like regain some of my strength and just get back to a lot of strength training and interval weight training, all the things that we're doing in this cycle. That's what I'm going after. But it was cool to dedicate a lot of run volume to one thing, not get really injured. Got a little bit injured in the training with my back, but like bounce back from that. Did the race, no injuries, recovered well. learned a lot. So overall, I'm really happy with my performance in doing it. And then who knows if I do another endurance race? To be honest, it's probably going to be the 100-mile bike race, 2025. I'm not going to do it this year, but like that's already in the back of my mind because I enjoy that race so much. Um, and I there's no you can't come out of that race without learning something about yourself because there's the endurance element of that 100-mile bike race, and then there's the heat element. So if it's doesn't matter how much you trained. If it's 114 degrees that day in August when they do that race, it doesn't matter. Like you're going to learn something about yourself, and it's going to be awful. So that's why I do like that race. And I didn't get as much of that in this one, even though I did learn some stuff, but it was all way different than like having to go deep and push myself and like continue on. So it wasn't like that kind of learning about myself, but it was a good race. I had a lot of fun.
So you're doing the 100 in August? This August?
No, 2025.
Oh,
That
okay.
would be, yeah. Like I'm going to be done with anything for the rest of this year other than just garage gym athlete training. That's all I want to do. I want to train in my garage. I want to climb some ropes. I want to flip some tires. I want to throw some kettlebells around, get under the barbell again a little bit. Like that's my goal and all I really want to do right now.
Cool.
Cool. All right, we will wrap this one up. Hopefully you learned something and you could stomach all the ultra content that I've been putting out over the last couple of months in preparation for this. We go back to regularly scheduled programming, and also hitting back on more scientific studies and getting back into what we do here at Garage Gym Athlete. But I appreciate everyone's support. Got a lot of messages on Instagram as I was running the race from a lot of you Garage Gym Athletes. So I really do appreciate the support there. Got a lot of text messages from friends and families during the race. That was very motivating. Really did push me in the later hours. So I do appreciate all that support. And then supporting Garage Gym Athlete. Thanks for everyone who is an athlete doing our training. Go get out there and push yourself. Like it doesn't have to be an ultra. I mean, it could be a local 5K. It could be a short Spartan, mid Spartan, the super, the beast. Do something. I do think you learn something about yourself and what you're capable of in these races. And I think they're well worth doing. So put something on the calendar and train for it. And then if you want to be a part of Garage Gym Athlete and learn what we're all about, go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial, and we would love to have you. That's it for this one. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.